Back to the double leg. I'm one half of the show, Hey Jai Picks, the other half of the show, the parlay. Joining me in to break down some UFC Las Vegas Yan versus Dvalishvili. Not at the Apex. We're at the Virgin Hotels with a live audience. Excited about that. How are we doing tonight?
Good, man. I was just thinking, it feels like we're getting out of that Apex era a little bit. We got this card that's in Vegas. It's a fight night, and it's not at the Apex. Obviously, the pay-per-views are not at the Apex. And then, you got San Antonio coming up that's not at the Apex, and Kansas City. So I feel like we're moving away from that Apex. I love it. I love Saturday nights with a full crowd. It makes the energy so good. So it's nice to see some of these lower fight night cards in front of big fans again.
Yeah, I haven't seen any card get scheduled for the Apex in the future. So hopefully they're done with that. And even more exciting, we got a lot of good fights on this card. We got 13 in total. We just lost one today, Carlston Harris and Abubakar Nurmagomedov. Nurmagomedov pulls out with an illness. So we got 13 right now. Hopefully we don't lose any more. Obviously, headline with Petr Yan, Dvalishvili. You got Volkov, Romanov in the co-main event, Battle of the Alexanders. And then we get the main event that was canceled a couple weeks ago. Krylov and Spann stuck on this card. So pretty loaded card. A bunch of other good fights on the prelims and on the main card as well. Another Nurmagomedov, Saeed. The second fight on the main card against Jonathan Martinez. Looking forward to that one. But we will obviously go over all those in this video. If you're new here, drop a subscription down below. This is the double leg, the Apex, for everything you need to know about the UFC. And if you want our full bets for every card and you want to get in on the premium membership, the link in the description will be down below. It's $19.99 a month. That is less than $1 a day and pretty much less than 50 cents per fight if you break it down. If you average a 10-fight card, there's 4 cards in a month. But usually there's 12, 13. Last week we had 14 fights. So you're getting your value there. We are on 2 weeks in a row in the green. And last week, I mean, the guys in the Discord were pumped after the week or the night we had at UFC 285. So looking forward to keeping that rolling this week. And without any further ado, we'll get right into it because we want to give you guys the best breakdowns we can. We'll start with the main event. Petr Yan and Merab Dvalishvili. Dvalishvili coming in at plus 235. Petr Yan minus 235. Over under set at 4.5 rounds, minus 202 for the over, plus 202 for the under. As always, odds are courtesy of BetOpenly, the best fight odds out there. The link for that site will be in the description as well. Bantamweight bout here. I think there's 5 fights in the bantamweight division on this card. So a lot of bantamweight action, very deep division, but these guys are towards the top. Petr Yan 16-4, 2-3 in his last 5 though, which is very crazy to think about. Dvalishvili on a run here, 15-4, 5-0 in his last 5. It's a big fight for Merab here. I would say a big test because Petr Yan has some of the best takedown defense in the entire UFC, 90% in his career. Obviously, very strong dude, very great on the feet. Merab wants to get it to the ground. What are you thinking on this fight?
Dude, it's so I don't know. Like when you see Merab Dvalishvili at plus 235, it makes you want to hammer. But then you look at the stylistic matchup with Petr Yan. Yan can grapple too, and he's super. He's got a really balanced base, and he's harder to take down. And he's a strong guy. He's shorter, kind of like Merab as well. But the thing that gets me about not wanting to go and hammer Merab as an underdog is because if you look at his record, and he beat Jose Aldo. Obviously, Jose Aldo's retired now. It's a retirement fight, and Jose is nowhere near the old Jose we used to see. Then he beat Marlon Moraes, who's been knocked out like 5 times in a row now. And then he beat Cody Stamann, which Cody's a good fighter. Before that, John Dobson, Gustavo Lopez. So it's not like Merab has been in there with a bunch of killers recently or a bunch of guys who are fighting at the highest level and in their prime. So I'm interested to see what happens when he steps in there with Petr Yan because at the end of the day, Yan can kind of do it all. I know he's kind of on this little downward trend, but he lost to Aljo. We know Aljo is extremely good, and he's a great grappler, and a submission game is really slick. But Marab's a different style of grappler. He's more of a chain wrestler. He's going to hang on for dear life and beat you with control time. He is powerful on the feet, but he's not very technical. And against Petr Yan, I think you have to be technical if you want to hang with him on the feet if you're Marab. So the name of the game is going to be, can Marab get it to the ground? Can he keep that pressure up against the fence? And if he can't, I think he's going to get picked apart by Yan, because Yan's fast and he hits hard, and those kicks are something else. So I am going to be interested to see if Marab, starts trying to catch that kick, that body kick Petr Yan throws. And if he does, it's going to open up that head kick. So all signs do point towards Petr Yan having the advantage here. I am going to lean Petr Yan for my pick. But, man, I think the odds could be a tad closer than they actually are. I mean, that's minus 235 for Petr Yan is a little wide at this point right now, if I'm being honest. But overall, I do think Yan should get the win. Could get interesting, though, for a couple rounds.
Yeah, they call Marab the machine because he puts that crazy pace on you. This is his first 5-round fight, so I'm interested to see how he comes out, if he comes out any differently. But we know Petr Yan's good for 5, and he's usually a slower starter, wants to get his reads on the feet, and speeds up as the fight goes on. He's great in those later rounds, putting the pace on you. Like you said, Aljo has technically beaten Petr Yan twice. One was the DQ, and then in the rematch, Aljo won the split decision. So Aljo and Marab being teammates, you may say, well, they got the blueprint on how to beat him. But Aljo and Marab are very different fighters. Both are wrestlers, both want to get it to the ground, but very in different ways. Aljo wants to get it to the ground, and he wants to get your back. He wants to control you on the ground, use his strength. Whereas Marab, like you said, chain wrestler, uses a lot of big movements to get his takedowns. He gets the body lock, goes for slams, picks you up, throws you down. He'll just keep repeating that, try to wear you down. Whereas Aljo, both guys shoot takedowns like their life depends on it. Like they don't have great takedown accuracy. But if they get it there, Aljo is one of the best at keeping it there. That's the big thing that I'm going to take away from this is Marab doesn't have that ground control that Aljo does. And we saw it in the second fight where Aljo would get the back and he would have the back for the rest of the rounds. If Marab can get Petr Yan to the ground, I don't see him being able to control him on the ground. And I don't see him being able to take him down at will. We saw in the last fight, Marab against Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo, historic takedown defense as well. Marab went 0 for 16. So he had to resort to just holding him up against the fence and kind of just holding on for dear life. And for 5 rounds of that, I don't like that kind of game plan going into this one. Petr Yan is world class. A lot of people think he's still the best bantamweight out there. It's tough to say that based on his last few performances. Maybe it's just an IQ issue, like a fight IQ issue, which is also it's hard to knock his fight IQ because he makes such great reads as far as in the striking, in the takedowns, as far as reactionary. But as far as winning rounds, maybe an argument as far as is the fight IQ there. He's lost back-to-back split decisions, both of them pretty controversial. But in reality, he did get the loss. So, that's tough. Tough to lay that kind of chalk on a guy that's been losing split decisions. I personally think he gets it done. Minus 235. I think it's probably pretty fair because he's a lot better on the feet, and he has that great takedown defense. If Marab's going to do this, he's going to have to take those first 2 at least. He's going to have those first 2 rounds. Honestly, you might be better off playing it live after round 1, after round 2. If you like Petr Yan, you'll probably get a better price because Marab tends to come out pretty hard and push that pace on you. Very successful in the first couple of rounds. But yeah, plus money, that kind of plus money on Marab for the way he's looked as of recently, it's hard not to take a bite on it. But you may be getting a better price on Petr Yan because he's 2-3 in his last 5. So there's always that recency bias that's usually factored into the price a little bit. So, I mean, let's think about this. If he beats Sean O'Malley, if he edges a Sean O'Malley decision there and he gets this fight against Merab, he's probably minus 300, minus 400. He might be around there at the end of the week. I mean, he's been moving up pretty heavily as the days have gone by. And I saw he opened at like minus 175, so minus 235. That's a pretty solid jump in about a week or so. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Petr Yan for the pick. You got anything else on this one?
Just that, when you do look at strength of schedules and stuff, this is by far, and it will be, Merab's hardest fight to date. And on Petr Yan's side, like, he doesn't have to worry about a long, lengthy striker standing across from him. So I think if he can stuff takedowns and just get the fight separated, not in the clinch, I think Petr Yan's going to do a lot of work. He's going to do some damage to Merab. And it's 5 rounds. So, I mean, how long can Merab really keep all that wrestling up and that chain wrestling up? There are going to be times when they're, at range and Petr Yan is sniping. So, yeah, man, the more I think about it, definitely Petr Yan. Man, I wish I would have hammered it when it came out at under minus 200, because it's just going to keep creeping up, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was surprised when I saw minus 175, and then a couple days later, he's like minus 210, minus 220. I'm like, yeah, that seems about right. It seems like the right direction for it. Heavyweight bout between Alexander Romanov, minus 152 for Romanov. Alexander Volkov. So battle of the Alexanders here. Is the E worth the price here? Plus 152 on Alexander Volkov. Over under 1.5 rounds. Over set at minus 147. Under plus 147. The experience is going to lean on Volkov in this one. We saw Alexander Romanov get his first loss in his last fight against Marcin Tybura, which was in Utah at altitude. We saw him kind of gas out there, but a beating on Marcin Tybura in the first round. But Tybura withstands it, survives, and gets into the second and third round and takes him and gets the win as a pretty big underdog. Romanov was minus 360. So a good cash there if you were on Tybura. Eventually, Romanov was going to have to fall, and you're probably going to get a pretty good price on him. That was the play to do it. He comes in here still as a favorite against a very experienced guy in Volkov, who his takedown defense is going to be key in this fight. Obviously, Romanov wants to get it to the ground. Very strong wrestler. Great ground and pound and some pretty solid submissions. Probably going to be fishing for legs really early against the 6'7" Volkov. But Volkov's takedown defense, it looked really good against Marcin Tybura. He stuffed all of 16 takedowns that Tybura threw at him. But the one blemish that's really hard to get over is he gave up 14 takedowns to Curtis Blades back in 2020. And if Romanov can have the success with the takedowns early and not gas himself out, he's probably got this fight won. But that's a big if, because Volkov been in there with the best. And his losses over the past 5. I mean, his only losses in the UFC are to the top of the division. Tom Aspinall before the knee, Cyril Gane, Curtis Blades, and Derek Lewis back in 2018, which was like when he was really, really popping. Kind of a breakout fight there for him. But in this one, I'm going to lean with the more experienced guy just because I need to see more from Romanov as a favorite against a guy like Volkov. When I look back and see Tom Aspinall was a very slight favorite against Volkov and what he did to Volkov, and then I look at Alexander Romanov in this one as a bigger favorite than Tom Aspinall was, I'm like, man, Tom Aspinall is way more skilled in every facet of mixed martial arts than Alexander Romanov. I have to go with Volkov. It's dog or pass in this spot for me. Maybe that last loss for Romanov is just sticking with me too much, but I just can't do it. I'll take the dog. What about you?
Yeah, no, I'm kind of thinking the same. And the more I think about it too, this fight seems like it's either Romanov by first round finish or Alexander Volkanovski on the money line. Alexander Volkanovski, Alexander Volkov. Because, I mean, first of all, the experience on Volkov's side, he's been in there with way better opponents. If it stands at range, Romanov can't get it done in the first round, Volkov could really take over this fight between the middle of the second on to the third. But the takedown defense is concerning early because Romanov is a super strong dude, powerful, and he's got good wrestling credentials. But I mean, getting beat by Tybura worries me a lot because Tybura is not an explosive guy. He doesn't have this crazy power on the feet, anything like that. So yeah, man, I'm kind of with you. I like Volkov here. The one thing we talked about right before this was that out of all of his fights and wins, he's got, I forget how many fights total. Is it 45 professional fights? He's lost 10 times and he's only been knocked out twice. So it shows a little bit of durability. And one of those knockouts was to Derek Lewis, who knocks out a lot of people, and especially at the time. So, yeah, all signs here. I mean, getting him at plus 152, I think that's a pretty good price for a guy who should make this fight pretty close and have a pretty good chance to win it as well.
Yeah, the one thing that scares me is Volkov's been submitted 3 times. Romanov's got 10 submissions on his record.
Right.
One last thing I'll say on that. Look at the level of competition that Romanov has beat. Like in the UFC, it is the bottom of the barrel. And the only close fight that he had was against Juan Espino, who is not in the UFC anymore. He's 42 years old. And this fight happened less than 2 years ago. So, I mean, he was 40 years old going against a 40-year-old Juan Espino and had to get a technical split decision because of a nut shot. And he was probably on his way to losing that fight if it continued. Yeah. So, yeah, as a favorite, man, I just can't do it. I just can't do it. Maybe I'm scarred. Nikita Krylov and Ryan Spann running, well, not necessarily running back, but getting it rescheduled for this event here in Vegas again a couple weeks later. We won't spend too much time on this one because we've talked about it before, but Krylov minus 158, Ryan Spann plus 158. The over-under is not out yet because this is going to be a 3-round fight. It was originally a 5-round fight, and the over-under was set at 1.5 rounds. So the line is not out for that. I would expect the under for the 1.5 to be a little more chalky, considering these guys will probably start to go at it a lot more with only 3 rounds of cardio to keep in their tank. We were both leaning Ryan Spann. You were on Krylov when we got to the picks at the end of the week, right before it got canceled. Did you change your mind at all?
I'm starting to a little bit because, he had to pull out due to illness, and that wasn't that long ago. It's kind of the same feeling I had with Jeff Neal is like, he wasn't injured that long ago. Like, how can he be 100% by now? And turns out, Shavkat kind of put it on him at times. But with Krylov, I just don't like dudes that big having to cut a little bit of weight this close together. And I know what it is at catch weight, but still, those dudes shed a lot of pounds to make weight. So same could be said for Spann, but if he's healthy and wasn't sick and stuff, I'm starting to like that power even more. And yeah, something's telling me Ryan Spann as an underdog might be the play here. I think I'm going to switch and take that as my pick. I might regret it, but for right now, I'm going with Ryan Spann.
Yeah, I kind of just like Ryan Spann even more in this spot.
Yeah.
Like you said, are you really good to go, or do you just want to get it over with? Are you like feel bad that you had to pull out and you want to get it done as fast as you can? From what I understood, it was a stomach issue, and it was kind of like a last minute thing where it wasn't like something he was dealing with throughout the week, and then he just couldn't go. It was like woke up that morning and had a really rough stomach thing that he just couldn't get over, and then they got to cancel it. Ryan Spann was crushed. I mean, he was crying at the press conference. You could tell it meant a lot for him to get the main event spot there on a couple fight win streak. And I think he wins this one. It's going to be at 215. So, I mean, you're not going to have to cut all the way to 205, but 215 is big enough. Ryan Spann is a big boy. Krylov, I mean, I don't know. I think Ryan Spann's bigger than Krylov, at least height-wise and thickness-wise. I mean, Spann is a big boy.
Yeah, I agree.
that power, the submission game, I think he takes this one, especially 3 rounds. I would favor Spann a lot more, that he doesn't have to save himself for later. If he doesn't get that finish in the first round, at least, if he puts it on him in the first round, there's a round banked up and he's only got to win one more. If it does go to decision, I doubt it goes to decision with the violence that these guys do. But yeah, I'll stick with my pick on Spann. I think he's going to come out even hotter in this one, being that he got let down in the first fight getting canceled. I think he comes out with a little chip on his shoulder, really wanted to prove like I'm that guy. I'm that guy. And the way he handled himself throughout that week, headlining the card, you could tell this guy really wants to put on something, and he's really been taking it serious. And he not necessarily has been before. After that win against Reyes, he said he was finally starting to train full time and everything. So I'll take Spann. The featherweight bout between Ricardo Ramos and Austin Lingo, plus 328 for Lingo, minus 328 for Ricardo. Over under set at 2.5 rounds, minus 119 for the over, plus 119 for the under. The man of the spinning at back elbow, Ricardo Ramos. Are you taking him here? Or are you giving the dog a shot?
Giving the dog a shot here, man. I've been watching film on Austin Lingo. I mean, he's 9-1. It's not like he's a bum by any means. Not as much experience, obviously. He was piecing up Luis Saldana at times, and Saldana and Ramos kind of have a similar style at times with that kickboxing. And what really stuck out to me when I'm breaking down the film is Turkalj, who we just saw fight and lose to a UFC debuter in a controversial decision, pieced up Ricardo Ramos and was finding the chin easily. I think Lingo has somewhat of a similar style. He's a really sharp boxer, and I think that could give Ramos some trouble. I think from a technical standpoint, Lingo is going to have the tighter shots. I think he's going to hold a little bit more power when they're just standing there boxing. And if he can kind of crowd Ramos, get him up against the cage and just rip the body early, try to gas him out a little bit, I think he's got a shot to do it. And I think the odds are way too wide here. I really do. I'm going to lean the underdog here. Ramos is obviously dangerous and he's a good fighter, but I'm surprised to see Lingo, a guy who has only lost one time in his career, at this big of an underdog here. I don't know. What are you thinking on this one?
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking the same way as you. You really got to put yourself out there to take a plus 328 dog. And Ricardo Ramos, he fights he fights exciting, but he fights very like if you got that big chalk card on him, I'd be scared because he fights all action. And what we saw against what Turkalj did to him, that loss doesn't age very well. He was an underdog in that fight, but yeah, I just don't see how you can put Ramos as this big of a favorite. I mean, he's pretty well rounded. He could go to the ground in this one. He's probably got that as an easier path to victory. But if he just stands and trades with Lingo, Lingo's got good hands. I mean, both guys are really hittable, but both guys throw pretty hard. Both guys throw a lot of different attacks at you. Ramos, though, negative strike differential. Lingo is pretty much even. So if they're on the feet, this one's probably going to be stand and bang it out. Lingo trains with Jeff Neal. We just saw how that went for him. But I think it'd probably be a lot closer in this one. Lingo, he doesn't wear the damage very well. Look at the fights he's been in. He gets bloodied up, which I don't like as far as, how the judges will look at it. But he is pretty durable. He can take some shots. Ricardo Ramos kind of the same way. So this one's probably going to be a bloody one if it stands. And if it goes to decision, which where the odds are indicating it's probably going to go to decision, I don't like having that big of a chalk card on Ricardo Ramos. So does he win? Probably. He should win. I mean, he's over a 3-1 favorite. But if I'm betting, I'm not taking that. If I'm betting, I'm leaning the dog. I'd probably say dog or pass. Yeah. That's pretty much all I got on that one. But the odds, I don't understand them. I really don't. Lingo, 80% takedown defense as well. Hasn't had quite the level of competition that Ramos has dealt with. I mean, Tehugov was okay. Liron Murphy was his other loss. Tehugov's not terrible, but he just got cut, so it's not a great look, and had to move up to 155. So, yeah. I mean, for the pick, I'm going to take Ricardo Ramos. He has a better ceiling, but nowhere near am I touching that kind of bet.
Yeah, and for me too, this is more of like a value play to where I don't think Lingo should be this big of an underdog. So it's like I almost have to take him if you're going to give me that much value on him. So yeah, I mean, Hamo should win, like you said, he should win the fight. But there is, a case for Austin Lingo making this thing close, and if he makes it close enough, it wouldn't be a bad thing to be holding that underdog ticket if it goes to the cards.
Yeah, all the values on them, and I'll definitely keep an eye on it. Maybe that line gets wider and there's enough value to pull the trigger. Bantamweight bout by Said Nurmagomedov and Jonathan Martinez. Plus 210 for Martinez, minus 212. Minus 212 for Said Nurmagomedov. Over under set at 2.5 rounds. Over minus 151. Under plus 151. Interesting that the over is favored in this one. Both guys got a good amount of finishing ability. Who do you think takes it?
Oh man, it's another one. It's like Jonathan Martinez is really tempting me to take him as another big dog. It's like last week was the week of the favorites. Is this week going to be all underdogs? I don't know, but
For one rule, never
yeah,
bet against a Magomed.
he was getting beat in his last fight, and he found that choke.
Whenever you see that good dog on against a Magomed, you're like, man, maybe this is the time to do it.
Yeah.
But usually it's not. But
Yeah,
maybe
and he's a different style than all the other Nurmagomedovs too.
Yeah.
His striking is super fun to watch. Throws a lot of spinning kicks. The one thing though, Martinez, dude, he can chew your calves up. I mean, he will kick you with leg kicks, body kicks. He's super powerful and strong. I do think this thing is a standing affair, and Saeed maybe has the quickness and the flashy striking, and maybe he'll have the more volume, but Martinez is powerful and he can find the chin too. And I'll be interested to see if Martinez can get off the leg kicks, how that affects Saeed going into round 2 and 3. Because something's telling me Martinez is going to be able to hang in there, and being the slightly more powerful guy, in my opinion, I think he could pull this one off too. For my pick, I do think Saeed has more ways to win. So for my pick, I'm going to take Saeed, I think, but Martinez could be another live dog here.
Yeah, this one's tough, man. Like, you see Jonathan Martinez, he's been a favorite in most of his fights. And then you get the plus money against Said Nurmagomedov, who has looked good at times and has looked like pretty average at times. He's not really getting the same respect from books as far as the Nurmagomedovs go whenever you see that name.
Right.
But in this one, a 2-1 favorite against a guy who's on a 4-fight win streak, coming off a KO or TKO win against Cub Swanson, where, like you said, just chewed his legs apart and literally made Cub Swanson kind of tap out. I mean, he took one leg kick and fell to the ground like he got shot and was just like, yeah, I'm done. I'm done taking these. So in this one, both guys want to just stand and strike. Jonathan Martinez, though, he'll mix in the takedowns like here and there. As the fight goes on later in the rounds, maybe he wants to separate himself. He'll go for those takedowns, and he's got a pretty good chance at getting them. I mean, 45%. It's not really his thing, but he'll mix them in. He'll mix them in. And Saeed loves to go for that guillotine, though.
He loves it.
And if Jonathan tries to steal one at the end of a round, that might not work out well for him. I think the danger is with Said Nurmagomedov, and that's probably why he's getting the respect. Jonathan Martinez, not a potent finisher. He's got 7 wins by decision, 8 wins by knockout. But they come later. They're more of an accumulation of damage. Saeed's got the flashier striking. It really just comes down to who like who separates themselves in the powerful shots and the grappling. And I think Saeed would. I would tend to think Saeed would get that done. He's I don't know. I don't think he's gonna have Islam in his corner. I know Islam was flying out there to he's in Vegas right now to be in Abubakar's corner, but I don't know if he's gonna be in Saeed's corner. So a little edge there. I'd like to have Islam in my corner if I'm gonna be fighting and if I'm gonna be betting on a guy. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Saeed for the pick. I think he's got the better ceiling, but I wouldn't be shocked if Martinez goes out there and wins a decision. I don't think he finishes him, but I think just Saeed's gonna do more to win the rounds.
Yeah. Yeah. Martinez definitely got to find a way to slow Saeed down. So
Mhm.
Saeed gets in that flow state, that striking so crisp. And he's pretty fast too. So yeah, Martinez, name of the game, slow him down. I think he's gonna have to try to do it with leg kicks. And that's his best bet at trying to steal rounds and accumulate some damage in this one. Should be fun though. Should be a really fun fight to watch.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Light heavyweight bout between Vitor Petrino -110 for the debuter, +110 for Anton Turkalj. Over under set at 1.5 rounds, -170 for the over, +170 for the under. The undefeated Vitor coming in here against the man who got fed to the wolves in his debut against Jailton Almeida and lasted a total of 4 minutes and 27 seconds. What do you got in this one?
Yeah, Turkalj in the contender series, I thought he looked pretty decent early in the fight. Kind of slowed down a lot as the fight went on. Got the decision win, gets into the UFC, and like you said, man, fed him straight to the wolves with Almeida. There was a few moments in that beginning of the Almeida fight. I thought, okay, maybe this kid is going to hang around and make Almeida fight deeper into this fight in the second and third round, but no, wasn't happening towards the end. His opponent's 7-0. Six looks like six knockouts and one decision win. So he's going to hold a lot of power. I don't know. It's kind of hard to get a read on Turkalj because I mean, like we talked about, man, he was fed to the wolves there against Almeida. You didn't really give him a shot to showcase what he's got at this level. I think though, a guy like Petrino who has the real knockout power, who's going to find the chin, that's the type of guy I'm going to go with in this lower level, entry level fight into the UFC. Um, for just watching the highlights, it seems like he's going to be the more explosive fighter. I do like a lot of finishes on his record compared to his opponent. Yeah, I'm going to lean Vitor Petrino in this one, and I'm probably going to wait to see what that knockout prop is as it comes out in the week. But from what I've seen in highlights, man, he gets a lot of finishes and he does it quick.
Yeah. If we look at Turkalj, fights on the contender series and gets a decision win. That was the week one of last year's contender series, which the only guy that got a contract was Joseph Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
So he didn't get a contract that night because everybody else just got decision wins. He was a -225 favorite in that one. Didn't look necessarily impressive. Just kind of rode the guy. I mean, he closed the distance and then rode him on the feet, had him up against the cage. If he can take your back, he'll just kind of hold that body lock and just ride your back as long as you allow him to, really. And the guy he was fighting just kind of allowed him to and never really worked to separate, was just trying to stay on his feet. And he won the rounds that way. And then doesn't get the contract. And then basically Jailton Almeida's opponent falls out, and they're probably like, we need to get this guy an opponent. This guy got a win on the contender series a couple months ago. We'll give him a shot to get him in the UFC. So that's pretty much how he got in the UFC. Not the best way, not the impressive way to get in the UFC, but the way to do it, if you got to just get in. And he got in, but if you look at his opponent, Vitor Petrino, 7-0, 6 knockouts. His fight on the contender series, fought a guy, Rodolfo Bellato, who he beat in his first professional fight. So it was a rematch, basically. Had already knocked the guy out. Bellato had 4 first-round submissions on his record. The only guy he had ever lost to was Vitor. So these guys are basically undefeated He's only beat him. Vitor's beat him once. This guy's undefeated other than that. And both guys have all finishes, all in the or 7 in the first round for Bellato. And then they rematch on the Contender Series. Bellato, a strong grappler, definitely wants to get it there. Petrino was able to survive on the ground. He was in some, I don't want to say terrible positions, but he was on the ground, working the grappling, able to get to his feet. In that second round, he landed a left hook that just, it didn't even look like it landed like that flush, but it put him out and basically put him flat on his back. So he beat him twice. Who Bellato, he'll eventually be in the UFC. I mean, that guy is solid. So yeah, I mean, I pick him odds. Petrino's a slight favorite, but I just think he's got the much higher ceiling and the more ways to win. He's got much better finishing potential. I think he probably does knock him out. But Petrino did get knocked down in his last fight in that first round, was able to battle back and get the knockout himself. But like I said, Bellato, a great opponent. This guy's powerful. He wings that left hook. It's like, you see Pereira throw that left hook all the time. Petrino throws that left hook all the time. Like he really goes for that left hook. Turkalj not going to be able to stand with this guy at all. At all. Nothing I've seen on film is ever going to tell me this guy is going to be willing to stand with Petrino. So he's going to have to shoot for takedowns. And what I've seen on film, this guy's takedowns are not strong at all. Like, he's not some relentless wrestler. He's more of a hold on to you guy kind of guy. And if you saw what I chose last week with Gamrot and Turner, I like to go for the guy that has the finishing ability over the guy that just wants to hold on to you. So
Right.
I'm going to take Petrino in this one. I'm honestly surprised that he's not a bigger favorite. And the line is kind of moving towards Turkalj, which is very weird to me. Petrino was like minus 135 a day ago. Today he's minus 110. So I'm going to keep waiting. Maybe you get some plus money on Petrino making his debut.
And Petrino, just guys at this level, and not saying it's low level, but it's just kind of entry level into the UFC, your first, second fight. I always back the guy with the more killer instinct. In this fight, it's obvious. Petrino's got the killer instinct over Turkalj. So, yeah, man, the line's being so close right now. I think you could almost hammer Petrino, and I'm even going to sprinkle on knockout. Like you said, man, I'm surprised the line is moving away from him with just based on what you see in their highlight tapes and in their previous fights.
Yeah, and if you don't know a lot about a guy, you see a Brazilian versus a guy from Sweden, who are you taking, man? Who are you taking? Probably going to take the Brazilian.
Yeah.
A lot of underdogs or a lot of weird lines on this card. Like, I'm like, am I just way off, or are these just crazy good value plays? But yeah, that's definitely one of them. A heavyweight bout. This is another one, man. This is another weird line that I just can't even begin to understand it. Lucas Brzeski, I think that's how you say it. Lucas something. Plus 185 against the debuting Carl Williams, minus 185. Over under 2.5 rounds, minus 110 for the over, plus 110 for the under. I'll let you go first, but I just can't understand this at all.
Carl Williams, a guy who's not going to go out there and knock you out. He's probably not even going to go out there and submit you. He's an American top team guy. And I don't want to, bash the top team guys because they got a lot of killers in their camp, but you see a lot of heavier wrestlers.
Top team Atlanta, not
Atlanta. So it's not So, but coming out of their camps, you see a lot of wrestlers who like to win by decision. They don't have, these crazy performances that they're going out there and finishing dude fast or just looking for these finishes on the ground. They're more technical with their, they want to wrestle. They all seem to come from wrestling backgrounds. And I don't think it's going to be any different for Carl Williams here. But Lucas, has that finishing ability. He's got 5 knockouts on his record, 2 submissions. And in his UFC debut against Martin Budai, he arguably won that fight. Budai's tough, was taking his shots, was hitting Lucas too. And Lucas showed that he has a pretty decent chin as well. I just think Lucas has more ways to win here. Like, if Carl Williams wins, it's going to probably be by decision. And in that 3-round span, if he can't get it down, There's going to be times when Brzeski has a chance to knock him out or finish the fight in one way or the other. So yeah, I'm a little confused on the UFC debuter um, being this big of a favorite here too. I think you'll probably see money start to come in on Lucas as the week goes on. I really do, just because I mean, you look at him in there, he hits pretty damn hard. He's
Yeah.
a pretty good boxer, and against Budai, 3 rounds at that weight class, he wasn't exactly hands on his knees gasping for air. Like he had a little bit left in those later rounds. So, and who's to say, is Carl Williams UFC debut under the bright lights on the big stage? If this thing goes into the third round and he's been wrestling the whole, round one and round two, how much is he going to have less in the tank? So, makes it interesting. It's another one, man. If it gets in the third round, you might want to be holding that underdog ticket here, especially with the styles. So, for my pick, I'm gonna lean with Lucas Brzeski here over Carl Williams. Could get dicey and interesting, but I've seen more I like out of Lucas than Carl.
Yeah. Yeah. This one is just crazy to me. I really cannot believe it. Carl Williams. I watched Carl Williams take on Jimmy Lawson in the Contender Series last year. And Jimmy Lawson was this Penn State wrestler who came in as the favorite against Carl Williams.
Big dude, right?
Yeah, I mean he's a
Like
thick
short
dude.
and stout, like really
6 foot. It's every bit of 265. I
just
mean,
gassed
just
out.
super strong dude. And then a lot of people were on him like first round KO. Came in as the favorite against Carl Williams. Carl Williams, the underdog, gets the win via unanimous decision. I mean, landed a total of 24 significant strikes in a win. Jimmy Lawson landed one significant strike, and Carl Williams had almost 11 minutes of control time. So basically out wrestled the wrestler. But if you watch that fight, man, like it wasn't like he was pulling off these crazy, grappling exchanges where he was just levels above Jimmy Lawson. No, he gets the takedown, and Jimmy Lawson was lost on his back. He couldn't do anything off his back. And yeah, definitely gassed out after that first round. It was probably one of the easiest heavyweights fights I've ever seen for a guy on the Contender Series to get a win. He gets the contract though because he's 33 years old,
Right.
and it's kind of do or die for him. And I'm thinking I am fading the shit out of this guy in his debut because there's no way this guy should be in the UFC. Like I just watched him beat a guy who I hate to like bash on guys, but that guy, Jimmy Lawson, like they should take away his wrestling credentials after
Yeah.
watching that fight. But then you look at Lucas Brzeski gets a submission win in the third round on his Contender Series fight, and then it gets ruled a no contest because of some kind of substance that was found in him. Which, if you're going to bet on a guy, you might want to bet on the guy who's taking the subs.
Yeah.
So like, you're probably going to still keep your money if you win.
They're not going to take the money out of your account. So
No, they're not. So that's a thing to look at. But then he makes his debut against Budai, and like you said, arguably won that fight. I watched it back. I think he definitely won that fight. It was a split decision loss, but he was a plus 240 dog. And that fight was 50-50 fight, like straight up a 50-50 fight. And you look at the stats in that fight, Brzeski lands 118 significant strikes. This guy has an insane output for a heavyweight. 6.86 strikes landed per minute for a heavyweight. And he only gets hit 3.78. So, I mean, he's doubling up dudes. And in this fight, he could double up Carl Williams. Like Carl Williams, watched a bit of his regional tape. He's got a good one too. But bro, like the guys he's fighting are straight up cans. Like the guy before Jimmy Lawson, Simon Marini, 9-8, 37-year-old who is now 9-9. And as a heavyweight, he was a light heavyweight, 5'10". Lucas Brzeski is 6'4". Kyle Wright, 2-0, now 2-1, 27 years old. Bro, this line is just crazy. I maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's something throughout the week where I am like maybe that makes sense why this is it. But Lucas Brzeski hasn't been taken down in his Contender Series fight or his debut. So, I mean, he's got 100% takedown defense. And I think he could just double him up, put the pressure on him, and he wins this fight pretty easily. But then I see the plus – he was like plus 135 a day ago, and now he's plus 180. I'm like, how does this happen? He'll mix in the takedowns himself.
Right.
He's a pretty quick guy, too. He's got good cardio, good activity on the feet, quick, athletic, good activity. He's going to be getting some of my money this week. I can guarantee you that, especially heavyweights. We all know the variance in heavyweights. Like, there's a lot that could happen. And as the dog, love it. I love it.
Yeah, and what happens when Carl Williams gets touched up a little bit? Like, we've never seen him take shots from, a legit striker at the UFC level. So, I mean, how's he respond when he eats a big shot in that first round? Is he going to be hesitant to get close enough to get the takedowns? I mean, there's so many unknowns, and we've just seen more out of Lucas here that, I'm confused why he's such a big underdog too, and I'm probably going to lay something on him here. He's going to be my pick in this one as well. Let's go for it.
It's my pick too. Bantamweight bout between Rafael Assuncao plus 130 on Assuncao minus 130 for Davy Grant. Over under 2.5 rounds, minus 165 for the over, plus 165 for the under. The 40-year-old Rafael Assuncao coming off of the win as a big dog and righting his wrongs after that 4-fight losing streak. Davy Grant stepping in here, who's also getting up there in age. But who do you like in this one?
I like the favorite here for a change on this card. I like Davy Grant. Assuncao, older. I mean, like you said, they're both getting up there in age, but Assuncao does have a little bit more wear and tear on him. He's got, he is the older fighter that everybody knows him for getting that brutally knocked out by Cody Garbrandt at the end at the end of that round, kind of a buzzer beater walk off. But he is coming off of a win. But before that win, man, he was on that losing streak that it was. I was surprised he hadn't retired yet, if I'm being honest, with his age and the record recently. Davy Grant just beat Luis Smolka, and before that has 2 losses. But those 2 losses come to Adrian Yanez and Marlon Chito Vera, 2 guys who are obviously Chito is very highly touted and at the very top of the bantamweight division, maybe the most stacked division in the UFC. But Yanez is climbing up too, and a lot of people are super high on Yanez. And that was a split decision loss. So he hung in there with him. Shows that he's kind of at that level still. So, yeah, man, Davy Grant here. I like him a lot. Assuncao is dangerous, but I think Davy Grant, not even being that big of a favorite, I think there's still value on him. I do think as the week goes on, this is another guy that you see starting to creep up towards minus 175, minus 200. So I do like Davy here, and, possibly a finish too. Older guy in Assuncao. Davy Grant has that big finishing ability. I won't be surprised if he gets it done by knockout.
I'm going to give Assuncao a little more credit than you are. But like you said, for Davy Grant, his losses as of recent are not terrible. Adrian Yanez, Chito Vera. But look at who's Rafael Assuncao's lost to as of recently. Since 2011, his only losses are TJ Dillashaw, Marlon Moraes, Corey Sandhagen, Cody Garbrandt, and Ricky Simone.
That's true.
Those are some big names in the bantamweight division. And don't forget, he beat Marlon Moraes before he lost to him. So he's been in there with the best of the best. And Davy Grant being 37 doesn't get me, you like to fade the older guy, but both guys are fairly old. The thing that I don't like is that Davy Grant's got a lot of power. He's got a lot of power in those hands. He's pretty hittable, though. And Assuncao, being old, can he take those power shots from Davy Grant? If we looked at his last fight against Luis Smolka, he could not handle those power shots. I mean, he got sat down with a jab. And Assuncao in this one, I think he's got to take him to the ground. I think that's the route he's got to go. It worked for him against Victor Henry. He basically just put the pressure on him. Victor Henry put up like almost 200 significant strikes against Raoni Barcelos. And Assuncao was like, you're not going to do that to me. And basically just put the pressure on him. and got the win as a big underdog in that one. I think he was like plus 300 or somewhere around there. Yeah, plus 310 against Victor Henry, who we'll talk about later. So, yeah, it's tough. I probably won't bet on this fight just because I don't like either side that much. The wear and tear is definitely on the side of Assuncao. Davy Grant's got 18 fights, Assuncao 36. So maybe a little brighter of a future for Davy Grant, but at the same time, how bright is it? It's probably not that bright.
Yeah.
Both guys are very experienced though. And yeah, I'm gonna go for the pick just to be a contrarian. I'll take Assuncao since you took Davy Grant, but not too confident in either side. I think it's neither side is good enough for me to really be confident in it at this point. Maybe that changes throughout the week, but at the moment, I will stick with the Assuncao for the pick. This one should be fun. Cedriques Dumas and Josh Fremd, middleweight bout. The undefeated Dumas sitting at minus 168. Josh Fremd plus 168, over under set at 1.5 rounds for an even money on both sides of the over and the under. The debut of Cedriques Dumas. I mean, he had that pretty nasty guillotine choke on the Contender Series. 47 seconds in against a very talented kickboxer. I'm going to try to say his name, Mate Penaz. Who,
Yeah, something.
26 years old. He's got belts on belts in his Tapology picture. Who looked really promising. I mean, Dumas came in as the underdog and got the submission win right off the bat. Josh Fremd, that nasty guillotine loss against Tresean Gore. So that's not a good look if you like Josh Fremd in this one, a guy who just lost via guillotine pretty brutally, and then a guy that just finished a guy on a guillotine. But are you giving Josh Fremd a second chance here? Is he going to avoid that guillotine in this one?
I don't know. It's really hard to get a read on Dumas at this level because if you look, man, the guys he was beating before the Contender Series, 6-5, 1-0, 1-0, 5-8, and 1-2. So he's fighting cans before he got on the Contender Series, but he's just one of those raw athletes who has raw power. And that athleticism takes him far. We saw it in the Contender Series fight. We've seen it in his highlights and his previous fights. I mean, when he hits you, he lands with a lot of impact. But Josh Fremd, like I know he got submitted by Tresean Gore, but it looked like he was on his way to possibly steal that win away from Tresean because Tresean was looking like he was going to get a little bit tired, like he's done in the past. But Fremd just got caught, man, after stuffing takedowns and trying to stuff takedowns from Gore. He went for his own. And that head looked like it was about to pop off in that squeeze. That was pretty nasty stuff. But I do think Fremd was going to get stronger as the fight went on there. He just can't get caught by Dumas here on the feet. Dumas is, I heard somebody talking the other day, he's kind of like took that Jorge Masvidal route to the UFC, not much background in fighting besides out on the street. Super athletic, like I said. And the power is what scares me here. If he can land on Josh Fremd and land often, especially early, I think Fremd could struggle with that power. But as the fight goes on and Fremd's still hanging around, I could see Fremd getting a takedown, just kind of wearing Dumas out, take the power out of his shots and make it interesting. But for now, I am going to lean on the power of Dumas, and I'm going to take him as my pick here.
Yeah, it's tough to judge Dumas based off the quick finish on the Contender Series. I would have liked to see him against the good kickboxer in that fight because Dumas himself is a pretty good kickboxer. But he gets it done quick, and he's a dangerous man. I think he's going to be a really popular pick this week, which kind of scares me because you get a guy that's making his debut, and a lot of people are on him against a guy that has a couple losses in the UFC, and he's stepping in here on short notice to take on Dumas. Dumas was supposed to fight Abu Azaitar. Azaitar withdrew. In steps Josh Fremd. Looks like he's been training though, and he's been looking for a fight. And I usually like to be the contrarian in these spots to where a guy has lost 2 in a row, and he's facing a guy making his debut as the underdog. But this one's tough, man. Like there's not a lot to get behind as far as Josh Fremd when I watch him fight. Like, he doesn't really stick out anywhere where I'm like, yeah, this is a path that he could take. And with Dumas being that dangerous on the feet, and then with the submission game, and Josh Fremd getting his head caught in the head guillotine, it's like, dang, like, how can I expect him to not do that in this round or in this fight? Like, it's tough to get behind. So, yeah, I'll take Dumas for the pick. I don't know. I'll see how it goes throughout the week, but the line right now at what minus 180 for Dumas, not great as far as a debuting guy. But yeah, I'll take Dumas for the pick.
Yep.
Bantamweight bout. The 43-year-old Guido Cannetti still doing the damn thing. Plus 875 in this one, taking on Mario Bautista as a minus 875 favorite. Over under 1.5 rounds, plus 147 for the over, minus 147 for the under. Man, I'm still surprised that Guido Cannetti is in the UFC, but not surprised at the same time because the man's on a 2-fight win streak. They faced him up against Chris Moutinho, and they thought they were giving Moutinho kind of a layup for taking that fight against Sean O'Malley. And it turns out Guido Cannetti puts him out in round 1. Cannetti was on a 3-fight losing streak at that point. He was, 41 years old. He fights Moutinho, or he was 42, fights Moutinho, gets the win, and they're like, damn, well, we'll give you another one. We'll give you Randy Costa, and he's a plus 240 dog in that one. Submits Randy Costa in the first round. They're like, damn, you got something left in you, Guido. We're going to match up against Mario Bautista to make sure you lose this fight. So that's pretty much how this one goes. It's scary because Guido he's dangerous in that first round, man. He's very dangerous. He doesn't look like he's 43. I'll just say that. He looks like he's in great shape always. Bautista looks like he could really be something in that bantamweight division. The thing that scares me is that loss to Trevin Jones where he got clipped in that second round. But as of late, he's on a 3-fight win streak. I can't really say he's winning against guys that are that great. Jay Perrin, who is cut from the UFC now. Brian Kelleher, who's a vet, but and he's got a lot of losses under his record. Benito Lopez, who is coming back after like 3 years off in that fight, submits him in the first round. You're probably, obviously the money line is not really playable at that price. Minus 875 on BetOpenly is probably going to be minus 1,000, somewhere around there on a regular book if you want to parlay it. And it's just, honestly, it's not even worth it. Like, the power that Guido possesses, minus 900, I'm not touching it. But at the same time, Bautista probably gets it done, probably in the first round, if not second round. Could do it either way. Very talented everywhere the fight goes. But other than that, I'll take Bautista for the pick, of course. And I'll be looking at props for sure in this fight. What about you?
Yeah, same here. Because, Cannetti shocked. I don't want to say shocked the world or shocked me, but he surprised me a little bit in that last fight because Costa, pretty talented on the feet. And Cannetti said, here's you just got your UFC contract. I'm going to go ahead and cut it in half for you and hand you this loss. Cannetti being that old definitely doesn't fight like he's that old and has a little bit left in the tank. But Bautista is just recently, especially, has looked like a world beater. He can get it done any way possible. His 2 losses come to Corey Sandhagen by armbar a while ago, and then Trevin Jones, which doesn't age great because Trevin's now lost 4 in a row. But everybody knows Trevin's pretty Trevin is pretty dangerous. He had Cody Garbrandt kind of on the ropes there last Saturday in the last round. So, but after that, what's that?
He was all good.
You think so?
No,
dude, I think Trevin was piecing him up there for a minute, but yeah, rattled off 3 good wins after that. I don't necessarily think this is a step up in competition for Bautista. Yeah, I'm not going to touch him obviously at minus 850 to minus, 1,000 or 10 to 1. So, yeah, definitely going to be looking at a finishing prop. Just going to depend like how you think he gets it done because he can definitely get it done either way here. But yeah, Batista's a pick all day long. I don't think Cannetti is going to have enough left to hang in there with a young killer like Bautista.
Yeah. We'll keep her moving. Flyweight bout between JJ Aldrich, minus 292 for her, plus 292 for Ariane Lipski. Over under set at 2.5 rounds, minus 193 for the over, plus 193 for the under. JJ coming in as a big favorite in this one. What are you thinking on this?
Yeah, I mean, recency bias, I can see why, they think maybe she has a better chance to win this one. The loss to Blanchfield, everybody's losing to Blanchfield. She beat Jillian Robertson. Um, Vanessa Demopoulos, who is kind of on a little tear right now. But overall, I mean, JJ's game plan is going to be the same it always is. She doesn't have a bunch of power on the feet. She's going to look to wrestle you, try to get you the ground, control you. I think Lipski's the more dangerous fighter here, if I'm being honest. JJ hasn't really lost to how many losses does she have in the UFC? I guess she has kind of a handful, but they've all been to decent fighters. Macy Barber, the Sabina Mazo one's kind of iffy, a split decision loss, and then Blanchfield, obviously. But um, I think she gets it done. I think she just deploys that game plan of try to wear Lipski out, get her to the ground, and control her. But I mean, Lipski does have some submission wins, and she's going to hold a hell of a lot more power on the feet. So if JJ can't get it to the ground, look out for Lipski kind of piecing her up. And I know in Lipski's last fight, she did take the knockout loss to Priscilla Cachoeira, who has looked somewhat decent in her last few fights, or she has a handful of stoppages. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell right now. It's another one of those that I'm not going to be surprised if the underdog comes through here. JJ should have the huge advantage in the grappling and wrestling, but if she can't get it to the ground as often as she wants, you got to watch out for Lipski.
Yeah, it's women's MMA, man. This is tough.
Right.
This is really tough to get behind that kind of a chalk. In not like a low level fight, but JJ Aldrich is a decision fighter. Like she just straight up, she doesn't get finishes. Ariane Lipski, like you said, the more dangerous fighter in this one, 6 KOs, 3 submissions. So she can catch you, but she also gets caught. She's been knocked out 4 times. So I don't know if JJ Aldrich possesses that kind of power to put her out. But normally JJ is probably going to be a stand-up fighter. Like she's going to want to just put some volume on him, or put some volume on her. And both fighters have a negative strike differential, so both fighters are very hittable. Uh, the path to victory, it seems like, for if you're fighting Ariane Lipski, is to overwhelm her, and she doesn't really know what to do. Antonina Shevchenko got her to the ground, finished her on the ground. Montana De La Rosa got her to the ground, finished her on the ground. Priscilla Cachoeira doesn't need to get her on the ground to finish her, just clips her on the feet. Once she gets knocked down, she is done. Like she wants to get out of there. That was kind of a weird fight, man. She got clipped, and then she was like, she just said fuck it and just started throwing bombs. And you don't want to throw bombs with Cachoeira. Like she's gonna win that for sure. Lipski looks good on the feet sometimes. Like she's very inconsistent. That's the thing, and that's what kind of makes her intriguing in this spot as such a big underdog. Because if she is on her A game, I think she could get the upset here. But JJ Aldrich is as consistent as they come, but she's not. She doesn't have the same ceiling, in my opinion. JJ Aldrich looked really good in that first round against Aaron Blanchfield, and that really stuck with me when I was choosing between Aaron Blanchfield and Jessica Andrade, thinking that Aaron Blanchfield wasn't going to be able to handle her. And then in that second round, she goes for a takedown on Aaron. And I'm not sure why, because she was looking good on the feet. Maybe she just wanted to mix it in or something, give her a different look. But at the same time, it just didn't look good. And she got guillotine choked. So this one, I'm going to chalk it up to women's MMA. And I'm like, if you're going to bet it, I'd probably bet the dog. But for the pick, I'm going to take JJ Aldrich. I'm gonna assume that JJ Aldrich by decision is still chalk because that's the only way she wins is by decision. So it's probably not even worth it at that point. Maybe there's some could be some value on that over. Let's look at that again. Over minus 193. So I mean, you're getting a better price on JJ Aldrich on the over 2.5 than JJ Aldrich money line. So
Right.
that honestly looks better to me. Like I know Lipski's been finished a handful of times, but I don't think JJ Aldrich does it to her. So
No.
maybe that's the way. If you like JJ, I would maybe take the over, and even if it goes to decision, you don't get screwed. So a path to get your money there. Bantamweight bout between Tony Gravely and Victor Henry. Minus 130 for Victor Henry. Plus 130 for Tony Gravely. Over under 2.5 rounds. Minus 179 for the over. Plus 179 for the under. Both guys, a lot of experience. Victor Henry, this is his third fight in the UFC. Came in against Barcelos. Put on a masterclass on the feet against the guy who is no joke and really beat the brakes off of him. He landed 181 significant strikes. We talked about this a little bit earlier in the show, but 30-27 Ione Barcelos as a plus 380 underdog, which is for a debut plus 380. You put on 181 significant strikes against a veteran like Barcelos. Very impressive. And then pretty much shits the bed the next fight against Assuncao when he was a minus 400 favorite. So who the hell knows in this one, man? Like, what Victor Henry are we getting?
Right.
Was that just an anomaly where he was just on fire that night, or what? But in this one, he's probably gonna have to be defending some takedowns because Tony Gravely is gonna want to get it to the ground. We all know the deal with him. Strong dude, smaller guy, wants to get it to the ground, wants to control you on the ground. His last fight against Bashrat wasn't able to do that. Bashrat just kind of pieced away at him on the feet. The thing that scares me in this one, from taking Tony Gravely as the dog, I really like him, but the thing that scares me, he's been submitted 5 times.
Yeah.
And Victor Henry has gotten, what is it, 8 submission wins. So, I mean, that's kind of the way he wins. It's either by submission or decision. Either puts the pace on you on the feet or you can catch you on the ground. So, I don't know if I'm going to be having a side in this one just because of the unknowns with Victor Henry. But Tony Gravely's been around for a while, training at a good camp at the real American top team. A powerful dude. He just needs to avoid those submissions and implement his game plan. I think he gets the win, but that's a big if. What about you?
No, I'm kind of the same way. It's hard to tell in this one because Gravely, you look at it too, he's got 10 knockouts. In his recent losses, he lost to obviously Javid, and Javid isn't gonna, Victor's not gonna be that style. He's not gonna have that super slick striking where, you're not really sure which angle any of these shots are coming from. And then he beat Johnny Munoz, Simon Oliveira. But other than that, man, he's not really fighting any super high level guys. And I guess the same could be said for Henry too. But like you said, man, it's all going to come down to if he can avoid the submissions from Henry because we know the wrestling's there. We know he's going to try to shoot takedowns, but you cannot leave your neck open against Henry because he has the ability to snatch it up, and he's creative with his submissions too. But on the feet, if Gravely can land, I think he'll be probably the more powerful guy. But overall, I just don't see Gravely being able to take Victor Henry down over and over in this fight. And I think that is going to be his game plan here. And if he can't do that, I think Victor Henry's going to walk away with it. I'm going to stick with Henry for my pick here too.
Yeah, I'll go with Gravely for my pick to be a contrarian. Flyweight bout between Tyson Nam and Bruno Silva. Minus 180 for Bruno Silva, plus 180 for Tyson Nam. Over under 1.5 rounds, minus 165 for the over, plus 165 for the under. Who do you got in this one? This one's flyweight's a lot can happen in a flyweight fight. What do you think?
Dude, Tyson Nam coming off that monster knockout over Ode Osborne. That was crazy. He's kind of an unpredictable guy. It's like there's fights he looks like a world beater and he looks like his striking is some of the best out there. And there's other times, he loses to Matt Schnell via split decision. And Matt Schnell is kind of, he's a tough guy and finds a lot of submissions, but he's not going to go out there and just put it on you on the feet or anything.
Yeah.
Tyson Nam, though, I do like the power he holds on his side. I mean, if you look at Bruno Silva, he's got the 2 losses to Tajir and David Dvorak, who fought recently, who's not the most impressive fighter either. JP Bays and Victor Rodriguez are his 2 recent wins. So I just don't know. Man, Bruno Silva is so hard to throw money on, in my opinion. He just seems like one of those guys. You're not sure what you're going to get with him. With Nam, you at least know he's got that power in his back pocket, and he can find the chin of damn near anybody. I mean, Ode Osborne just got a win over an up-and-coming, pretty highly touted prospect in Charles Johnson, and Tyson Nam made it look like light work there. So, yeah, for the pick, I'm going to stick with Tyson Nam here. I'm going to hope he finds that big power shot and puts the lights out.
I'm going to disagree with you.
You like Bruno?
I like Bruno. I don't know if I like the price enough, but I like him to win this fight. I think Tyson Nam is knockout or bust, and I don't think he's going to be able to do that to Bruno Silva. And the guys he's knocked out, Ode Osborne, as you said, just got a good win, but is known to get finished. Zaruka Dashev, who has been knocked out a handful of times. Jerome Rivera. His losses, basically, he just looks for that knockout punch. I mean, he gets hit a lot. Look at the stats. He gets hit 5.66 strikes absorbed per minute. He only lands 3.68. He's got 100% takedown defense. But if you look at that stat a little bit more, he's only defended 4 takedowns. So he's going against strikers all the time. And can he find that knockout punch? Well, basically, he's done it in 3 of his 6 UFC fights. So he does it about 50% of the time. But in this one against Bruno Silva has some pretty solid stand-up. Not the best, but I think it's solid enough and it's safe enough to where he's not going to get clipped. And I think the best path to victory for him is to take him down. He averages 2.89 takedowns per 15 minutes, 31% accuracy. I think that's just where he's got to take it. And he's been training out of Fight Ready. So, those guys are going to have a good game plan. And Cejudo is going to be telling them to get him up against the cage and take him there. So I think that's the path he takes. And I think he's going to have success in it. I don't think Tyson Nam's going to be able to get those reads and land that shot. He is 39 years old as well, Tyson Nam. So you're the guy that loves to fade the older fighters. And I am going to do that in this spot. As a flyweight too, like the older flyweights, they can't really hang in there too much like the bigger boys. But I think Bruno Silva wins this one. I'm not crazy about the price, but he's just got more ways to win this fight. He can win by decision. By just not getting hit with that knockout punch, just outvolleying him. Matt Schnell outvolleyed him, basically. Yeah. Matt Schnell's nothing to write home about on the feet. In fact, very chinny. So he was able to outvolley him on the feet and get the win. Bruno Silva can take it to the ground. And he's got good power. Look at his wins in the UFC. 2 knockouts. His last 2 wins have been both knockouts. He looks great on the feet. And he'll mix in the takedowns as well. So, yeah, I like him here. I really do. Not crazy about the price, but we'll see how much I like it as the week goes on. And maybe we'll get there. But that's it for this card. And if you want to know if we get there from a betting standpoint, you can join the Double Leg Premium. That's how you get all those plays.
Been killing it.
We've been killing it. But as always, these are just our thoughts on a Monday night. And as the week goes on, some stuff changes, some stuff stays the same. But that is why we have the Double Leg Premium, so you guys can get updated on our thoughts and where our money's going throughout the week and get in on the plays as soon as we do. But yeah, that's it for the card. I think it's going to be a great fight night card. What time we got for a start?
I was going to look at that earlier too.
3 p.m. Eastern. So
sticking with the 3 p.m.
Yeah, 2:00 for us in the Central Time. So looking forward to it, man. I mean, where do you think? Kind of a weird question for the preview show here, but where do you think the winner goes between Yan and Dvalishvili? If they get the win, like what's next for him?
Yeah, super interesting because Jan, with all the losses recently, it's like you can't really throw him in the title mix over Sean O'Malley, Corey Sandhagen, and Cheeto. He's, I mean, his losses aren't terrible, obviously, but they still are. You know, he's still 2-3. Is he? I guess 1-3 in his last 4. Would that be right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
1-3.
So you're not going to throw him right in the title mix. But with Merab, you know, coming off of the win over Aldo and on a little bit of a win streak, you beat Jan, and it's like, regardless of Jan's record, man, his name holds a lot of value because he is regarded as, you know, one of the best bantamweights in the world as of recently. So yeah, man, it's kind of tough because with Merab too, he's not gonna go and fight Aljo because Aljo's, you know, they're buddies and stuff and they train together. So super interesting. I don't know. I don't know where they go next.
Yeah, time will tell. But that is what we look forward to as the fight fans of the UFC. If you enjoyed this little breakdown, those podcasts, drop a subscription down below to support the channel. Drop a like, drop a comment. What fight you're looking forward to? Any plays you got? You can follow us on the social medias at the Double Leg. You'll get all the clips there. If you don't want to watch the hour and 15 show, those are clips though. So if you really want to learn about it, we'll put the individual fights on the YouTube as well. Add HI Picks on the social medias for me. Where can they find you?
TikTok, the Parlay, Instagram, the Parlay_media, and Twitter and YouTube, the Parlay MMA.
All right, next time you see us, we'll be recapping some UFC Las Vegas, Petr Yan versus Merab Dvalishvili. Till then, Double Leg, signing off.